Nice to meet you, everybody. My name is Lucas. I was born in New York City, and at the age of 5, I moved out into the countryside, into a small little town called New Paltz, New York. And since graduating college, I've moved out here to Japan, and I'm currently on my 3rd year living here, and it's wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Warm welcome to the radio show.
Yeah, so we are so happy to invite you. Yes. And so I know your Japanese is very good, and can you translate in Japanese?
はい、もちろん。はい、私はルーカスと申しまして、はじめまして、ニューヨーク市に生まれて、5歳になると、ニューヨークの中部に引っ越していって、それから大学を卒業してから日本に引っ越して3年が経ちますが、日本に来てとても、素晴らしいところと、思えるようになりまして、よろしくお願いいたします。From many methods, but all pretty much by myself.
By yourself.
So yes, use a textbook, 教科書, and also in Fukuyama, there's a program where you can meet with a volunteer, and they'll speak with you in Japanese. So use that, and of course, consuming lots of media. So reading books and manga and listening to podcasts. Yeah, so some radio in there as well. Because Google is around and you can look pretty much anything up, it's so much easier to learn a language now than it might have been some 30 years ago. So maybe if I'm looking up how to write a email for something very specific, maybe for a 面接のお礼を打ったらすぐ出てきて、こういう風に書くんですねとすぐ分かるのは本当にありがたいことですね。
本当にね、数十年前というかね、以前だったらなかなかこういうね、便利な方法でこうね、学ぶのも難しかったんですけどね。
すごく嬉しいです。こういうのがあって。
So New York is one of my favorite place, and so it's the largest metropolitan area in the world. Could you introduce the famous spot in New York?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've spent a lot of time in my youth in New York, and some of my favorite places include Central Park, which is a lovely place. It's in the center of New York City. But it's such a big park that if you walk into the middle, you might even forget that you're in a big, big city. And then after that, I think many people might know, but the Brooklyn Bridge is also another wonderful place we have in the city. You can walk over it or bike over it, and the view of the river below is absolutely beautiful. もうみんなニューヨークといったら、ニューヨーク市しか思いに浮かばないと思うんですが、ニューヨーク州は意外と広くて、ニューヨーク市以外のところも、視聴者の方に知ってほしいのですが、ハドソンリバーとご存知ですか？
知ってます。
ちょっと北に行くと結構広くなりますけど、それを徒歩で横断できるところがあって、Walkway over the Hudson というすごく素敵な橋があります。それはキプス市に近くて、ぜひ行ってほしいです。
教えてくださったブルックリンもね、よく行ってましたか？
そうですね。セントラルパークのように、広くて、森みたいな、公園があって、それは、プロスペクトパークで、それもすごく素晴らしいと思うので、 セントラルパーク行った方は、
はい
そちらも行ってほしいのです。
はい。
I've traveled around the states a little bit. I've been to Atlanta, down in the south, and then Santa Barbara, out in California, which is a lovely place, close to a very nice national park. And one of my favorite places is actually in the Midwest,
Midwest.
in Minneapolis, or in Minnesota. And within Minnesota, there's some lovely cities that are more tucked away, a little bit away from the coast, but have a lot of charm in their own way. So I would highly recommend that folks who have seen the more obvious parts of the United States should check those places out too.
いや、結構ね、アメリカの中もいろいろ旅行してるんですね。
そうですね。
はい。
はい。
割とチューブとかも好きでこうね、行かれたりしてるんですね。
そうですね。はい。まあ仕事の関係で、まあいろんな国立公園に働く仕事があって、まあすごく幸いなところで、
はい。
そのまあアメリカの国境にある、その、ミネソタにある公園に働いて、その中部に行くことができました。
Could you introduce American cuisine you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think America has a lot of offerings when it comes to various cuisine. But let's see, I think many people know about hamburgers and stuff like that. However, I think a lot of where American cuisine shines is in its versions of other countries' foods. So you can find some really delicious Mexican, Italian, and Thai food in America, as well as the traditional hamburger.
Yeah.
So I really like the tacos and burritos they have in America.
Yes, same here.
Yeah, and also New York style pizza I think is very special, probably different from the pizza that you'd find in both Italy and even Japan. So I definitely recommend people try that. And then a little bit of my culture. I'm Jewish, and so one of the kind of traditional foods for Jewish folks, especially over in New York, is what we would call bagel with lox. And so, yes, I think you know what a bagel is.
Bagel,
but,
yeah.
You may not be familiar with lox.
Lox.
And lox is pretty much smoked salmon.
No.
Yeah, that you can put on top of a bagel with
Bagel,
cream
yeah,
cheese, and
yeah.
it's absolutely delicious. ですね。まあニューヨークピザというと、まあイタリアピザはやはりちょっと、クラスが、まあ細くて、そしてニューヨークのピザより分厚くて、そしてチーズとまあ油っぽさが、多い方です。
あ、多いのね。
はい。
いわゆるトッピングって上に乗っているものはどういうもの？
そうですね。それもやっぱり結構違ってきて、まあアメリカのピザっていろんな多分イタリアに行ったら違反というほど違うトッピングがあって、もうなんかチキン and bacon and ranch とかすごい変わったピザもあります。
そういうことね。
はい。
でなんかやっぱりねイベントというとすごい大きいピザなんですよね。
そうですね。もう友達となんか料理をしたくないとか、もう大人数を食べさせたいときは、やはりピザ注文するに限ります。
そうですね。本当にねもうびっくりするぐらいの大きさのピザで、そして今ねルーカス教えてくれたように厚みもあって、いろんなものが乗ってて、もう一切れ食べたら多分日本人もお腹いっぱいになっちゃうんじゃないかなっていうぐらいね。
はいはい。もう全然一スライスで全然大丈夫ですよ。
Can you tell us the difference between American and Japan about culture or education?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one big difference that comes to mind is the way people interact in public in both America and Japan. So one thing about America that I sometimes miss is that there's a certain level of friendliness in even a public space. So you might be waiting in line at a supermarket,
Mhm.
and you might have a small conversation with the person in front of you, or maybe you're going for a walk and something strange happens, and you talk about it with the person who you happen to be next to. So things like that, that just kind of happen spontaneously with strangers, I think are something that is very special about America, and maybe even more so for New York. Whereas I think on the other hand, in Japan, people tend to keep their personal space in public. And I think that has its merits too, but I do sometimes miss the warmth of strangers. でもやはりなんかそういう公共の場でちょっと離れた感じもありますが、やはりなんかいざとなった時はすごく優しく助けてくれる気がします。なんかある時によくキャンプに行きますけど。一回キャンプ場が見つからない時があって、その時にその近所の人にすごく助かって、助けてくれました。そういうことがあって、やっぱり、本当に困った時に、優しく、助けてくれるんですねとなりました。Yeah, so I had a wonderful time talking with the two of you. It's really nice to be involved in something with the community like this. And I thought it was a very warm, welcoming atmosphere, and it was very easy to just talk on and on. I think I could have probably talked for another hour here. So, it was a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.